Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. While information about Deontay Wilder's camp and his sparring partners has largely been kept under wraps until recently, not so for Tyson Fury, a completely open book. So he sparred a myriad of fighters in recent months. So what we'll do, because obviously there's been a couple of camps, the camp for October the 9th after this postponement, which was for the trilogy fight originally scheduled for July, and then we'll get to some of the guys he was previously working with. Fury has now arrived in the United States to complete his final preparations, but in more recent days he has been sparring the likes of Johnny Fisher. You can see here on screen. Fisher, a 3-0 pro who is signed with Matchroom. He is young and strong, pretty raw, but these will be good, tough rounds for Tyson Fury. And another guy that he's been working with, also a prospect, George Fox, who was with Frank Warren. Fox and Fury known to each other quite well, actually, because Fox was part of the camp for the rematch with Deontay Wilder. So he was part of that sparring camp, as too was Jordan Thompson, a 10-0 cruiserweight, part of that rematch camp. So these guys have worked together before, and obviously bringing Fox and Thompson back, something must have been going right the first time around that they were working with them. Ahead of this more recent camp, Fury was in the United States training in Las Vegas. He was doing a little bit of work in Miami as well, but in different gyms as well. You can see here on screen. So here's a video here. Fury, you got DYCHKO, you've got Colton Warner, and also a Russian prospect who we'll get to. He's just out of shot here. Anyway, so Colton Warner. He is a former hockey player. You can see here pictured with Fury. Just the one amateur fight about 5 years ago, but in the gym with Tyson Fury. He looks in shape. He's a big lump like some of these other guys here. And you can see here, this is Ivan DYCHKO. You've also got Colton Warner and then ANDREY MANGUSHEV, we'll come to in a moment, with Fury. So Colton Warner, an opportunity probably through where he's been training, actually. I don't know the specifics about how he came to train with Fury, but it is what it is. But we know Ivan DYCHKO, see here on screen. So he is a 6'9" Kazakh heavyweight, unbeaten prospect, two-time Olympic bronze medalist. So he was working with Fury for a couple of months there in Las Vegas, and you can see here him working on the bag. And as I mentioned, a young Russian prospect, Andrey Mangushev, 23 years old, who has been working with Tyson Fury. Here's a little clip that he posted to his social media. So he is currently unbeaten, a 5-0 prospect, 6'7", 6'6.5", something there or thereabouts. Can't really take too much of the sparring from it, because obviously there's not really much to show and they're not really doing too much. But in terms of, and there's his box rec, by the way, but there's been a number of other guys, and I think this is probably the same for like Colton Warner. Another guy who had got a little bit of work in with Tyson Fury, Ahmed El Biali. So he's an Egyptian light heavyweight. I think some of these guys who've just been in different gyms, you can see the Warriors boxing gym, they've just been there, they've been working with Tyson Fury and just, you know, been in and around the camp courtesy of that. But a guy that Fury has been working with, and they have a relationship going back a few years, and you can see here, Jorge Capetillo. So he, if you don't recall, was the cut man that was able to sort of stem that cut in that fight with Otto Wallin. So he got a lot of credit from Tyson Fury, and a friendship sort of blossomed out of that, and he gave him a bonus for that. But Fury had been working on the pads and different bits and pieces for that first camp before the postponement, quite a bit with Jorge Capetillo, out on runs and other bits and pieces. And as a result, you can see here with Sugar Hill in the background, Capetillo with Sugar Hill, so he's been involved in and around the camp, so probably the corner man for the night, but a, you know, close confidant of Fury now, so not a sparring partner as such, but very an integral part. And here we have a photo from Jeremiah Milton. So he's a top rank signed prospect. So this is him here in the back. You also don't need any introduction for Michael Hunter, so this was part of that first camp. Just some sparring that these guys had been involved in. On the right here, Johnny Rice, so we'll get to that, but Michael Hunter, as we know, a very good heavyweight, a top 10 rated heavyweight. He's currently been fighting on Triller. Him and Fury actually fought in the amateurs, and Hunter's a bit cut up about that because he does think that he won that fight. And as I mentioned, Jeremiah MILTON, who is a prospect pictured here next to Fury, also another guy we'll get to very soon. Johnny Rice, as we know as well, has been in that Fury camp. So Rice more recently had a very good win over up-and-coming prospect Michael Polite Coffey. Stopped him in, what was it, about 8 rounds or so. He lives and trains in Las Vegas. You can see MILTON here in the background as well. I believe that guy in the black t-shirt is one of those guys that does those slapping competitions. Anyway, moving on. Other guys who've been in and around Tyson Fury, that first training camp, F.A. AJAGBA. So he's a top-ranked fighter now, formerly from PBC. But AJAGBA is fighting on the undercard, so he'll be fighting Frank Sanchez. And another guy that had been working with Fury too, Jared Anderson. Probably, in my view, the best up-and-coming American prospect right now. So he has been on a tear recently with some of his performances looking very good, getting some good wins, good stoppages, very impressive performances. And there has been a persistent rumor going around that Jared Anderson was really putting it on Tyson Fury. And some have speculated that the postponement wasn't due to COVID, but it was because Jared Anderson had allegedly knocked Tyson Fury out in sparring. No way to prove that, but that is something that has been persistently going around. AJAGBA and Anderson, very tough sparring for Tyson Fury, and Anderson himself will also feature on the undercard taking on Vladimir Tereshchenko. And also you have Christian THUN, the 6'8" German. He was in the camp with Fury for quite some time. Fury here, you can see in this photo, actually he's standing on that step ladder leading to the ring. There have been a few photos where Christian THUN was actually looking a little taller than the allegedly taller Tyson Fury. But Tyson Fury in the camp, because THUN at the time was preparing for a fight. Fury has obviously been helping THUN work on his trash talk, calling out at that point Christian THUN, Lucas Brown, calling him the Brisbane Plumber. And rounding out this video, you also have a longtime friend of Tyson Fury, Joseph Parker. So Parker is now training with Fury's cousin, Andy Lee, and he's been in a number of different training camps over the years, since they became friends about 4 or 5 years ago during and after the Huey Fury fight in the United Kingdom. But Joseph Parker not rejoining Fury in Las Vegas as he prepares in the final weeks of his camp. What do you make of it all? A lot of names, a lot of fighters, a lot of different skill sets. So, yeah, Tyson Fury has seen some different looks. A couple of guys who've really got a decent bit of power too. Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.